This episode is brought to you by Google Gemini. With the Gemini app, you can talk live and have a real-time conversation with an AI assistant. It's great for all kinds of things, like if you want to practice for an upcoming interview, ask for advice on things to do in a new city, or brainstorm creative ideas. And by the way, this script was actually read by Gemini. Download the Gemini app for iOS and Android today. Must be 18 plus to use Gemini Live.
The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's Season to Stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
When your gut feels off, your whole day can feel off. Activia probiotic yogurts and dailies are a quick, easy, and tasty way to up your gut health game every day. They're deliciously smooth and creamy and packed with billions of live and active probiotics. Your gut is where it all begins, so start with Activia. Enjoying Activia twice a day for 2 weeks as part of a balanced diet and healthy lifestyle can help reduce the frequency of minor digestive discomfort.
Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn, and once again, I'm flying solo for another edition of my Cover Song Dive bonus episode. While the first few have focused on multiple covers of a single song, tonight's Cover Song Dive will feature a one-sided playlist curation featuring 10 of my favorite cover songs that were released in 2024. So this is very similar to the regular playlist curation episodes, except I don't have a guest, and probably to make things harder on myself, whittled it down to only 10 songs instead of the usual 20. With that being said, I'm not doing a countdown order like a top 10 list. I'm sticking with the usual playlist curation formula and trying to put these songs in a quote-unquote listenable order. Whether I achieve that or not, that's for you to decide. Like all of my regular episodes, you can take the conversation to the next level by visiting the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com, where you can give my final mixtape a listen via the embedded playlist. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, get early access to future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, chime in on upcoming topics, become a future guest, and so much more. And before I get into my choices, the Patreon mixtapers have chimed in with some of their top cover song picks of the year. But what I'm going to do is mix things up for this episode. I am going to give a shout out to a few that unfortunately didn't make my top 10 list now, but save the other shout outs for when a mixtaper and I synced up with our cover song choices, because I'm happy to say there are several awesome crossovers for tonight's episode. First, I'd like to shout out Seeker, who chimed in with The Who covering The Trooper, originally by Iron Maiden, saying he's had a fascination with The Who since their song was featured in the Star Wars Fallen Order game. Now they're covering one of his all-time favorite bands and doing it well. Win-win for him, and all of us for that matter, as I had the chance to catch The Who as the opener for Iron Maiden on the Future Past 2024 World Tour, and I got to see firsthand why this band is making such a worldwide name for themselves. Also, Chris Pazika chimed in with Meet Me at the Altars covering You Got a Friend in Me, which was originally by Randy Newman, along with another song that I'll be talking about a little later on in the episode. Now, like I said, there's plenty of other Patreon chime-ins, but with this nice synergy, there's a lot of crossover this time around. So be sure to stay tuned for some more Patreon shout-outs throughout the rest of the episode. Once again, if you'd like to be included in future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, come join the fellow mixtapers at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape.
The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's Season to Stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
And to kick off the top cover songs of 2024, in my humble opinion at least, is Slash, featuring Chris Robinson's The Pusher from his Orgy of the Damned album. I first want to give a shout out to Patreon mixtaper Mike Daly, who chimed in with Slash's version of Crossroads, featuring Gary Clark Jr. from the same album, saying that his spin on the track is fantastic. Now, this chime-in was actually also included in the Songs of 2024 episode that ran last week with DT Carroll from Space Castle. So that should put into perspective just how much this cover song resonated with Mike, making his top pick of the year one of the best covers albums of the year as far as I'm concerned as well. Besides The Pusher, which is the cover I chose, the original being by Steppenwolf, this album also had several contenders for my list, including his cover of Willie Dixon's Hoochie Coochie Man featuring Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, his cover of Fleetwood Mac's Oh Well featuring Chris Stapleton, his cover of The Temptations' Papa Was a Rolling Stone featuring Demi Lovato, and his cover of Howlin' Wolf's Killing Floor featuring Brian Johnson of AC/DC. So as you can see just with those songs listed, for me at least, this was a tough album to choose just one cover song from. And if you haven't given Orgy of the Damned a listen from front to back, you're really missing out on one of the best cover releases in a long, long time. I really hope he follows it up with a sequel because he hit the nail on the head with this album. And I should probably talk about Chris Robinson because the Black Crowes had a hell of a 2024 with the release of Happiness Bastards, their first album in a very long time and a well-received return to form for them. And then his vocals with Slash on The Pusher are just phenomenal. He absolutely slayed the vocals on this track. He sounds like he did in the 90s, and the two of them just work perfectly together. So to kick things off tonight, Slash featuring Chris Robinson, The Pusher. Now, following up that blues rock that Slash brought to The Pusher, I'm actually going to strip a little bit of the blues away, but I'm going to bring in some of this swamp rock with a blues touch. And I'm going to go with J.J. Grey and Mofro's Seminole Wind from his Alusty album, originally recorded in 1992 by country singer John Anderson. The original tune is breezy, it's mid-tempo, and dare I use the word relaxing. This track's been covered by Donna the Buffalo, James Taylor, and Luke Combs over the years. However, J.J. Grey and Mofro didn't just cover this song, they completely reinvented it. It goes from this breezy country song, like I just said, to this scorching New Orleans-infused swamp rock jam, complete with horns and JJ's unmistakable gravelly Joe Cocker-esque delivery. This is hands down one of the best examples of putting your stamp on a song, at least in terms of this year's batch of cover tunes. And I'll say just overall in general, what I love about cover songs. Because if you listen to John Anderson's version, followed up by J.J. Grey and Mofro's version, you're getting two completely different experiences. And I love that about cover songs. JJ Grey and Mofro, this is the first album they put out in over a decade. I really hope we don't have to wait another 10 years. One of my favorite groups, I've gotten to see them live. If they come through your area, make sure to put them on your list. They are a must-see live act. Unbelievable live band. And they bring it on the studio albums as well. A lusty from start to finish, another one of my favorite albums of 2024. So moving on from the swamp rock, I'm actually going to weave from blues to swamp rock into country now. And this song is from Cody Jinks' album, Change the Game, and it features Pearl Aday, the daughter of Meatloaf, on this rendition of Faith No More's Take This Bottle from their 1995 album, King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. Now, usually with cover songs, people know the original that I'm talking about, and I'm sure there's some of you out there that just went, what? When I mentioned this obscure Take This Bottle song. When I saw the title of the song on Cody Jinks' album track listing, I said, there's no way that's the Faith No More version. And when I first streamed the album, I immediately went to it. I'm like, oh my God, it is. This is unbelievable. I know I'm in the minority with that. But in terms of the original, Take This Bottle's the track that quietly follows up the insanity that is Diggin' the Grave on King for a Day. And this outlaw country sound was a ridiculously dynamic shift when listening to the album as a whole, even 30 years ago. Going from manic metal to outlaw country always demanded my attention when listening to that album. And I'm taking nothing away from Diggin' the Grave because it is just a killer Faith No More song, but Take This Bottle might be low-key one of my favorite Faith No More songs across their entire catalog. So I'll admit, when I first clicked play and realized that it definitely was a cover of the Faith No More song that I had fallen in love with 30 plus years ago, I went into it pretty skeptical. Mike Patton's vocals go from the lowest of lows to some of the highest of highs. I mean, some pretty elevated stuff. So I was very curious to hear what Cody and Pearl were going to bring to their version. And I guess I have no choice but to call this a faithful rendition using quote marks because it already was an outlaw country song from the jump. It was just by Faith No More. And Cody does hit those Patton lows with authority. Musically, his band's up for the challenge. Obviously, they do country music all the time. And they're able to bring this song into 2024's country landscape without changing the core of what the song brings to the table originally. I have to admit, I love the gender flip of Pearl's vocals for the second verse and the octave change when she starts hitting the verses with that added heft and authority. That really stuck out to me at first. They do take the chorus from that point on line by line. Personally, I would have loved for them to take the song a step further and maybe worked out some harmonies because their voices really work well back and forth. I would have loved to hear them more together and in harmony, but that's just a small gripe because they really both nailed their performances on this track. Now from that, I'm going to go from a cover of one rock ballad, even though it was country, to another rock ballad, and I'm going to bring it, well, actually, I'm not going to bring it too far out of country because this version kind of sticks in the Americana label, I would call it. But the original, released on Aerosmith's 1987 album Permanent Vacation, was a tried and true power ballad, and I am talking about the song Angel. The song was written by Steven Tyler and Desmond Child, who the latter was a guest on My Weekly Mixtape not once, but twice on both episodes 54 and 90. And we talk about this song in each of those two episodes, along with the countless hits he's written for Aerosmith, Bon Jovi, Katy Perry, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Meatloaf, Kiss, Ava Max, hell, even Kermit the Frog. So many others and so many incredible stories on those two episodes. If you want to hear some of the coolest stories behind some of the biggest hits of the last 4 decades, you definitely need to check out those Desmond Child interviews. But with that said, Aerosmith's Angel. The cover I'm going with, actually, I first want to start by giving a shout out to Patreon mixtaper Sean Goff, who chimed in with this version as well, saying, when you have a song by my all-time favorite band being covered by probably my favorite underrated artist, it's hard not to go with Aerosmith's Angel, covered by Butch Walker featuring Ashley Monroe. Could not agree more on the underrated part. Butch produces so many incredible albums that I don't think a lot of people realize, but he also has his rock stuff with Marvelous 3. He's got his solo stuff. This guy is so versatile musically. And what he did on this cover was strip away the heft and the sheen of Aerosmith's 80s power ballad version. And he reduced it to a beautiful picking guitar, light piano work, and just Butch and Ashley's vocals harmonizing each other with a perfect blend of vulnerability, but authority as well. Like, they damn near punch these vocals, but there's also a sweetness to it. And they weave in and out of it, and it's just so mesmerizing. It forces you to pay attention to the lyrics and the beauty of what Desmond wrote with Aerosmith. And then when you get to the bridge of the song, oh my God, if you want to talk about harmonies, the vocal harmonies in this, across the whole song, they're amazing, but in this section, instant goosebumps for me. I challenge you to listen to this song and not have the hair on your arm stand up every time you listen to this bridge. It is absolutely stunning. If it were up to me, Butch can do an entire album of covers using this exact formula, and I'd be all over it because this was absolutely masterful. And now we've had blues, swamp rock, country, Americana. So what I'm going to do is take that Americana and circle back to some of that blues, mix it up in a pot, take my favorite artist of all time and bring him into the mix, because 2024 was a great year to be a Tom Petty fan, especially considering they released the deluxe edition of Long After Dark with a second disc of amazing material. There were also 2 covers albums released this year specifically dedicated to Tom Petty's music. You had the Petty Country album, as well as the Bad Monkey soundtrack. Now, considering I did an entire Under the Cover episode dedicated to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' Refugee, which was the first Under the Cover episode, if I'm not mistaken, on that version, I included Winona Judd and Lainey Wilson's Refugee. Now, since I talked about it on that episode, I actually wanted to go with something different to give me an excuse to talk about another Tom Petty cover that I love, but zero disrespect to Winona and Lainey, because that version is absolutely killer. And if you're a country fan, you might want to check out the Ultimate 2024 Country playlist that I did with Leah Jones from the Struts just a couple of weeks ago, because there may or may not have been some Winona Judd and Lainey Wilson talk in that one. But back to the song at hand, I am actually going to go with a gender-flipped version of Running Down a Dream, which was originally recorded for Tom Petty's 1989 solo album, Full Moon Fever, and the version is by Larkin Poe. We talked about Larkin Poe on episode 55, the Ultimate Modern Blues Rock playlist featuring Jack's Hollow. And my God, Larkin Poe, towing the line between country, Americana, blues, and rock. This version is quite faithful to the original, but I would say it's a tad bit more aggressive in a good way. Both of these versions give me road trip vibes. But on Larkin Poe's Road Trip, the pedal's a little bit more to the metal than on Tom Petty's version. I have a feeling Larkin Poe is going to explode in 2025. They have a brand new album coming out in early 2025 called Bloom, and from the singles that have been released so far, could already be on my radar for Album of the Year for next year, and we're still not even in 2025 yet. So be on the lookout for Larkin Poe. What an incredible energy they bring to this song, and that energy is exactly what I'm going to tap into to continue on to my next choice. Again, kind of staying bluesy. There's been a ton of amazing blues covers coming out in 2024. Great year for it. And this song was originally recorded by the Jesters in 1965. And once again, it's a gender flip song. The song, Cadillac Man. The artist, ZZ Ward from her newest Mother EP. But instead of me talking about the song, let's hear what ZZ herself had to say about this cover, shall we?
You know, this song is an incredible song.
It is.
It's such an amazing song. When I started playing it live, we had recorded this song and it was a hell of a lot of lyrics to get in there. I was like, holy shit, like trying to get all these lyrics into this recording is a mouthful. And the more I would play this song live, I wondered if the audience would be able to digest the incredible story that's in this song from the live show. I don't know, when I was up there on stage and I'd be singing and I was thinking, are they getting all these lyrics? Because when I really had time to digest these lyrics, I was like, this song is incredible. This is a car chase song. This is literally like you're suddenly transported to a movie where you've stolen a car that you can't afford and the cops are on your tail. And it's just amazing. I've never heard a song quite like this song. It's really, really unique.
Now, that clip was from the Album Dive, ZZ Ward's Mother EP episode of My Weekly Mixtape. Please go back and check out the full episode because ZZ really brings it on this EP. She's going right back to that blues sound that she did back in 2012 for her debut, Till the Casket Drops. And she even re-recorded a few of the songs from that album for this EP, Put the Gun Down and Little Darlin', both the Dirty Sun versions. Definitely be sure to check out this EP. It's incredible. And the episode that goes along with it. One of the best covers of the year. Shout out to Patreon mixtaper Chad Lamassa, who also chimed in with Cadillac Man. Could not agree more on the cover there. And following that up, we're finally going to get out of the blues a little bit. And we're going to get out of the country a little bit and the Americana a little bit. And we're going to get a little bit more into the pop and the rock side of things, because I feel like we haven't touched on much of that yet. But we're going to get there. And we're going to stay with the females because they brought it this year. But this song was originally from Talking Heads' 1983 album, Speaking in Tongues. And I am going to go with Paramore's cover of Burning Down the House, which was featured on the Stop Making Sense tribute album, where Patreon mixtaper Brandon from Virginia chimed in with El Mato e un Policia Motorizado's Slippery People from the same release. And if I butchered that title, I sincerely apologize. I have not had a Spanish class in several decades, but I hope I didn't butcher it too much there. Back to Paramore. They're bringing their now pop-infused rock sound, the modern Paramore sound, to this Talking Heads classic. And while it remains faithful to the original's production elements, once again tonight, Hayley Williams gender flips the song, and her take on it just soars. Honestly, I might not have been as keen on this cover if it was another male voice singing it, because musically, I think they were quite faithful to Talking Heads' version. And while there's nothing wrong with that because the original kicks all sorts of ass, the gender flip actually becomes the highlight of this version. Hayley's voice, she brings the heft. She obviously loves the original because it shows on her delivery of the vocals here, but she's not afraid to add her own unique nuances to the performance to make the track her own, while musically it does sound familiar. So a very well done version. If you're a Talking Heads fan, the Stop Making Sense tribute album has to be on your list to check off this year. And from here, yes, Paramore is the pop rock side of things now, but at one point they were punk rock and a little heavier, and I think that's where I'm going to go with my next pick. And this one's a combination of bands that, on paper, would pretty much make my eyebrow raise, and probably did when most of you heard about it for the first time. That would be metal band Ice Nine Kills teaming up with ska punk band Real Big Fish on Walking on Sunshine, from the American Psycho comic series soundtrack, originally recorded by Katrina and the Waves. When I read that this version was out in existence, I was really skeptical because I had no idea what to expect, having seen Ice Nine Kills on the Metallica tour and the horror metal that they do. I know Ice Nine Kills has done some really great covers, including their take on Someone Like You by Adele. However, this is kind of a different animal they were attacking, and bringing one of my favorite ska punk bands on the planet, Real Big Fish, on board, I was not sure what to expect here. And they bring the heft and the happiness on this version. And while it's obviously much heavier than the original, it still bathes in that unmistakable glow of sunshine that the original has given us all for decades on end. So if you're a Real Big Fish fan like me, don't forget to check out episode 28, the Ultimate Ska Punk playlist featuring Scott Kloppenstein of Real Big Fish and the Littlest Man Band. We talk a ton of ska punk as well as Real Big Fish in that episode. But while we're mentioning Real Big Fish, we got to continue with the cover songs tonight. And I'm going to continue with my next song choice that leans right into that ska punk sound. And once again, it's two bands coming together. However, it's two bands that don't shock me as much as Ice Nine Kills and Real Big Fish did, as these are two more ska punk legends, Goldfinger, featuring Less Than Jake, covering I Had Some Help from Post Malone's F1 Trillion album. If that Post Malone album sounds familiar, came out in 2024, as did this cover. Pretty quickly after the original dropped, I should add. And I have to admit, it's pretty ballsy to go after one of the biggest country songs of the year and rework it into a ska punk tune. But if anybody's gonna do it, John Feldman's gonna be one of the people to pull it off. And he does here with ease. This version is a legit ska punk song, taking a country song with Post Malone and Morgan Wallen, one of the biggest hits of the year, which, spoiler alert, we discussed on the Ultimate 2024 Country playlist because it was, again, one of the biggest country albums of the year. And it works as a ska punk song. Shout out to Patreon mixtaper Chris Pazika, who also felt this way and chimed in with this one as well. I'm all in on this cover. It's a lot of fun.
Sephora's biggest fragrance sale of the year is on. Get 20% off full-size fragrance gifts, including designer scents like Valentino Donna Born in Roma.
How did you know?
20% off floral scents like Burberry Her.
Thank you.
And 20% off trending scents like Kayali Yum Bougie Marshmallow and Glossier You.
This is perfect.
20% off full-size fragrances now through December 24th. Shop now at Sephora and Sephora at Kohl's.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the new generative AI assistant from AWS. Many tasks can make business slow, like wading through mud.
Help!
Luckily, there's a faster, easier, less messy choice. Amazon Q can securely understand your business data to help you streamline tasks, like summarizing quarterly results or doing complex analyses in no time. Q got this. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay, things people love.
And fun is how I'm going to close out this episode. Because we have gone kind of all over the map here, from blues to country to Americana to swamp rock to pop to metal to ska punk. But we haven't gone to polka. Shout out to Patreon mixtaper Philip Bergman, who chimed in by asking, do medleys count? Because if so, I'd like to include Weird Al's Polka Mania. And yes, Philip, not only do medleys count, it's how I'm closing out tonight's cover song dive. Weird Al releases his first song since the songs he recorded for the Weird movie as well as the Hamilton Polka. And there was some other guest spots that he's done on other songs that kind of cloudy up the waters. But look, anytime we get a new Weird Al polka, it's a good year. And this one is, for my 10th song of the night, a medley of 10 other songs. Those songs being Adele's Hello, Ariana Grande's Thank You Next, Billie Eilish's Bad Guy, Cardi B featuring Megan Thee Stallion, WAP. The cast of Encanto, We Don't Talk About Bruno. Ed Sheeran's Shape of You. Lil Nas X's Old Town Road. Louis Fonsi featuring Daddy Yankee's Despacito. Mark Ronson featuring Bruno Mars' Uptown Funk. Miley Cyrus's Flowers. Olivia Rodrigo's Vampire. And Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. I honestly don't think there's a better way to close out this cover songs playlist, but the only kind of sad part about this is even though I knew every song that Al used in this polka, had it been a polka specifically geared towards the year 2024, I wonder if I'd be saying that same thing. But that said, hearing Al sing WAP wasn't on my 2024 bingo card, but here we are, sound effects and all. You'll have to listen to the song to know what I'm talking about, and I'm all here for it. If you'd like to hear more Weird Al talk, I highly recommend episode 56, the Ultimate Weird Al Yankovic playlist, which also features Patreon mixtaper Philip Bergman, who chimed in with this one. Such a fun discussion and some unexpected song choices from both of our parties, if I do say so myself. And as well, this past October, I was fortunate enough to be a guest on the extremely fun Children of the 80s podcast to talk all things Weird Al from an 80s only perspective with Jim and Lindsay over there. I have that episode embedded on the guest appearances page over at myweeklymixtape.com, along with a link to check out all the other things they have going on over at Children of the 80s. If you like nostalgia and you like to reminisce about all things 80s, this is an extremely fun place to do it. Highly recommended. But there you have it, folks. My 10 favorite covers of 2024, which kicked off with Slash featuring Chris Robinson of the Black Crowes, The Pusher, originally by Steppenwolf. J.J. Grey and Mofro's Seminole Wind, originally by John Anderson. Cody Jinks featuring Pearl a Day, Take This Bottle, originally by Faith No More. Butch Walker featuring Ashley Monroe's Angel, originally by Aerosmith. Larkin Poe's Running Down a Dream, originally by Tom Petty. ZZ Ward's Cadillac Man, originally by The Jesters. Paramore's Burning Down the House, originally by Talking Heads. Ice Nine Kills featuring Real Big Fish, Walking on Sunshine, originally by Katrina and the Waves. Goldfinger featuring Less Than Jake's I Had Some Help, originally by Post Malone featuring Morgan Wallen. And Weird Al Yankovic's Polka Mania. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs I've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
The holidays are back at Starbucks, and there's so much to share. With classics like Caramel Brulee Latte, Peppermint Mocha, and Chestnut Praline Latte, we're celebrating everyone's flavor of festivity. Order yours in the app.
Streaming now on Peacock. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie are back.
That's hot. Loves it.
For a show-stopping reunion that will prove putting on an opera is anything but simple.
We're really good at this.
One thing's for sure, they won't be upstaged.
Good to have you back. Come on, we've got a show to do.
Paris and Nicole, The Encore, a 3-part reunion special. Streaming now, only on Peacock.
And remember, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, get early access to future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, chime in on upcoming topics, become a future guest, and so much more. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.